Hey, do you ever have like this moment where you're watching a TV show and then like halfway through the episode, you're like, wait a minute. All of these people are bad people. That's the feeling that I have when I watch any episode of Industry at all. And Industry is back. And the thing is, that's a show I also can't get enough of because these people, while they're all bad people, are incredibly, incredibly watchable. Hannah J Davies is here and she told me a little bit about this new season, season 4, because I'm not actually quite caught up yet. And it turns out this is the best season of Industry that has come out so far. So I hope they enjoy this conversation because for me, this is a show that is really worthy of all the noise that we make about it.
We might be standing on the verge of something great. But the work is ugly. It's anti-status quo, anti-establishment, anti-power.
Which part of that is meant to be a problem for us?
So that's a bit of Industry Season 4. Hannah J Davies wrote about it for The Guardian. She's with me now. Hannah, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, thanks, Elamin. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Thanks for coming on. Listen, you've had the privilege of watching every single episode of this series, including every episode of this current season. How does Season 4 compare to the ones that have come before it?
It's fantastic in a word. I would say this new season I would say it's without a shadow of a doubt the best season of Industry so far.
Oh, wow.
I was kind of like a proud parent watching them at home because, we've been on this journey with them since season 1 all the way back in 2020. So we're seeing some real progression now in the show. This was initially a story about graduates, young sort of fresh-faced banking graduates, and we're pretty far away from that now.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of those actors were kind of unknowns, and we now know them a lot better. People like Mahala, people like Marisa Baylor. And it's just been incredible to kind of see them become increasingly known while also bringing in new guest stars, bringing in people like Kiernan Shipka from Mad Men, Charlie Heaton from Stranger Things this time around. So it's explosive.
Okay, just real quick, walk me through where does Season 4 pick up the story? I say this because I'm still trying to catch up. I'm still working my way through Season 3, which is leagues better than Seasons 1 and 2. So I'm still getting there. So how is Season 4? Where do we pick up?
Oh, you've got some great stuff to come in season 3. So for season 4, we've got Mahala's character, Harper Stern. She's this very audacious, occasionally quite terrifying trader. She's now working for this problematic financier, problematic old guy called Otto Mostyn. And the idea is that Harper's going to look after the shorts part of Mostyn's operation. So not to get too technical, but, we've seen shorting before in this program, borrowing shares, selling them at a high price, buying them back at a lower price, making some money. So Harper's meant to be in quite a cushy position. Unfortunately, Mostyn, he's pretty risk averse, doesn't want his company doing anything super risky. And if you've watched Industry 1 to 3, you'll know Harper, her middle name is super risky. So they've got that going on. Separately, you've got Marisa Baylor's character, Yasmin. She's now married to Sir Henry Muck, played by Kit Harington. And perhaps unsurprisingly, their kind of high society union is very dysfunctional behind the scenes. He's got issues with addiction that are really coming to the fore this season. And a lot of this season revolves around a technology company called Tender. Issues inside that company, which then, without giving too much away, brings Yaz and Harper into contact with each other in quite a major way again.
Mm-hmm. I gotta say that like the thing about Industry is that these are people who I have a hard time rooting for, right? So like as they're like on the screen, I kind of go, I'm having a bad time with everybody here. There's no one who's really worth redemption. There's no one who's like, oh, that's a good guy. I'm rooting for that person. When you watch the show, as you watch all 4 seasons of it, who do you find yourself rooting for, or I don't know, maybe even like hating the most in case you're not rooting for anybody?
Yeah, I think you make a great point, which is that there's kind of this dislike that we do have towards them, even as we are kind of rooting for them. And I think Industry really revels in those kind of shades of grey. For me, I think Rishi, played by Sagar Radia, is probably the kind of manifestation of that, of Industry's refusal to be so black and white. He's, in the earlier seasons, this sort of larger-than-life office bully, quite liked, but then maybe that's because people don't want to get on the wrong side of him. Fast forward to season 3, and I don't want to spoil it too much for you, Elamin, as you said, you're not at the end of it yet, but then he has an incredible bottle episode, kind of Uncut Gems almost-esque bottle episode about his gambling addiction, his problems at home, and we really see a different side to Rishi. And then at the end of the season, he suffers this huge personal tragedy, which again, no spoilers. So I think he's just a really nuanced, interesting character. And having briefly spoken to the actor who plays him, Sagar Radia, he's so so concerned with kind of South Asian representation and doing a good job with the character and kind of showing that Rishi's been, maybe a victim of this very white, very homogenous world, both at work and outside of work. equally the character's pretty monstrous and does some pretty indefensible things.
I love these words that we're using to describe these characters, because I think I can imagine somebody listening going, monstrous people. That's what you want me to spend my time with. What do you think it is about these shows that pull us in and make us go, yeah, I'm seated for this. I would like to see where this goes.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because it's like I could be enjoying my life, or I could be watching. No, but I think I think
Yeah.
I think we maybe gravitate, towards these shows, and maybe shows like sort of Succession, White Lotus,
Yeah.
thinking, rich people problem shows in inverted commas. I think maybe it's because we're trying to understand those parts of society that we don't understand, right? The darker recesses, perhaps, of society, how power corrupts, and what the rich and powerful sort of actually doing. And I think, Succession was obviously about a rich family, people born into that, literally the title Succession. White Lotus, super rich again. But I think what's interesting about industry is that we see people, like Harper, who isn't from privilege, but ends up surrounded by it, maybe corrupted by it, what that does to a person, the interplay of race and class in these environments. And maybe ultimately we can find a lot of truth about the world in shows like that.
Mm-hmm. When you think about all the new characters that they've added this season, so they say, okay, we've got a bunch of monsters already that we're working through, and then you've got a bunch of new additions. Any of these new characters, you're like, oh, this is an interesting new layer that we have not seen in the show before, and now we get to sort of play around with it. Who are the characters and actors who are sticking out for you?
I mean, there's so many awesome new characters this time around, but I think Kiernan Shipka, who I mentioned, who listeners may remember as little Sally Draper from Mad Men way back when. I think she's really interesting, and how she kind of her interactions with Yasmin without kind of giving too much away, and again thinking about power and who has power and who doesn't, and sexuality. It's so interesting. We've also got Toheeb Jamo from Ted Lasso, who does an absolutely excellent job. He's a new character called Kwabena, and I think this is a show
he's
that
so
has had
sweet
really,
on Ted Lasso, like
he's so sweet, and he's sweet here too. But this is a show that has really interesting, profound things to say about race. I think it has done in one way or another since season one, and he has a really interesting part to play in that this season, without giving too much away, in terms of acknowledging his own position as a Black person in this industry, questioning his own privilege, even looking at his own kind of Eurocentric desires and sexuality. So it's a very interesting.
So as you sort of watch, you've seen the rest of the season. You've watched it at the end of season 4. Where do you want to see the show go from here? I got about a minute left here.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because it gets pretty political this time around, but I still think there's kind of more they can do. So you've got this kind of governmental slant coming in with the big tech company. Tender kind of brings us into contact with a Labour MP, so a member of Parliament for the current ruling party in the UK. A lot of politics there, but the show kind of switches up from that traditional kind of left-wing, right-wing dynamics to look a little bit at extreme politics, and I think there's kind of more to go. And there's one scene in particular where we see Harper in an environment where, yes, she's a highly successful trader, she's in these beautiful tailored suits, but she is a Black woman in a room of people who probably do not come into contact with many Black people, and we get the impression do not particularly think particularly fondly of Black people. So I think there's a lot to get into there.
It's all rich terrain, and as everybody talks to me about the people who have seen more of season 4, they're like, just get here. It's time for you to get here so that you're actually caught up on the show, because it's going to some crazy places. Hannah, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks so much.
Yes, of course. Hannah J Davies is a freelance culture writer and editor based in London, UK. My name is Elamin. This is Commotion. See you tomorrow.